Tank warfare in Battlefield 1. Now, we've been told by developers that this is going to be a huge part of the game, so today I'm just going to go through a bunch of the tanks that we will see in the game for sure that have been identified, and obviously some of the gameplay mechanics we're going to be getting, and why Battlefield 1 will have different tank gameplay than pretty much any other game we've seen in the Battlefield franchise. Now, in the background I have some Battlefield 4 gameplay on Goldman Railway using the tanks, which I think this is just the best map to tank on in Battlefield 4. And yeah, I made some pretty nice helicopter and jet shots in this gameplay, so enjoy that and drop a like down below if you do enjoy this video. Now, the first tank that was identified in the trailer was the Mark IV tank, which was the sort of desert-like tank that we saw with the sniper who had the anti-tank rifle. He was running right next to this tank, the Mark IV tank. Now, 1,200 were made in World War I, and one of the variants has 5 machine guns, and one has 3 machine guns and 2 cannons. So this is basically just what I was talking about. Many of the tanks in this game have different variants, and each country really had their own tank because the technology was developing so quickly that each country did it in their own way. Nobody knew how they were going to work out, but they just needed to get tanks out on the battlefield in order to compete with their allies and enemies. So by the end of the war, though, technology had advanced to where some of these tanks could hold 8 people, which is what the devs were talking about, saying that you could fit an entire squad into a tank easily. That's what they may be talking about. Now, I'm not sure if we'll get 8 people in one tank in this game, but you can almost guarantee that we're going to get 5 people in a tank. As they said, it would fit an entire squad. Now, another tank that we saw in the trailer is the A7V Sturm Panzerwagen German tank. Now, you could fit 5 people into this tank, and it really just looks like a box tank. I mean, this is sort of, a lot of people were developing different kinds of tanks, and this tank had 1 cannon in the front, 1 cannon in the back, and machine guns on the side. Now, the last tank, and what's considered the pioneer of modern tanks, is the FT-17 tank used by the French. The reason why it's a pioneer of the modern tank is because it was the first tank to have a rotating turret on top, which made it extremely useful. So in Battlefield 1, if you're in a tank, most of the tanks will not have rotating turrets. You'll have a front gunner and a back gunner, as well as side machine gunners, which will really make it teamwork essential for these tanks. I mean, in LAV, while it did have side gunners, it could completely dominate on its own. However, most of these tanks will definitely need an entire squad to operate it in order to be successful, except for the FT-17, which seems like it will be a bit of a smaller and solo tank because of that rotating turret. Now, we didn't see this in the trailer, however, many YouTubers have said that they saw this behind closed doors, and pretty much everyone confirms that this will be in Battlefield 1, or at least it was in the closed door trailer. Now, in addition to tanks, we also have various armored cars that will be in the game. Tanks will be hard to take down and powerful as they were in the war. There's various ways they can be taken down that we know right now. They can be taken down by an improvised grenade, which is basically just 6 grenades in one, by dynamite, which is basically the equivalent of C4 in this game, and by an anti-tank rifle that we saw earlier, and I believe I talked about it in a different video. And obviously we'll see many other tanks. I'll bet you will see upwards of around 10 different kinds of tanks, which would be really interesting when compared to Battlefield 4. It's really only 3 main kinds of tanks that operated differently. So we had the T-90 main battle tank, which is obviously just your standard classic tank for modern military. We also had the LAVs, which just seemed a bit more mobile and infantry focused. And then we had the anti-air tanks that worked well against both infantry and air targets, but were a bit weaker against other armor such as the LAV and the tanks. Now, another way that we may be able to take out tanks in Battlefield 1 is this just something that really interesting that I always wondered about with the modern tanks, is that the tanks back then, at least, they used to have slits so that people could actually see outside of the tank. And what could be interesting in this is if you jump on a tank and throw a grenade into the slit, would you kill everybody within that tank? That could be extremely interesting gameplay mechanic and allow various classes to take out tanks because they were extremely powerful. And if you only let one or two classes take them out. It may be a little hard, or obviously it's going to be a lot harder to close in and throw the grenade into that little slot. But in the dynamite, the anti-tank rifle, and the improvised grenade will be a much easier way to take them down. However, this would be a viable option for all classes to take them down. And like I said earlier, the various tanks that we'll see in this game will provide different speeds, damage, health, and gameplay mechanics for each different kind of tank, which again isn't really something we saw in a Battlefield game before, because if you learn the T90, you'll be able, in Battlefield 4, you'll be able to learn that same main battle tank for all other classes. However, if you learn that main tank for one faction in Battlefield 1, it'll be much different than another faction. So you'll have to really master all the tanks to become a ground vehicle master in this game. Something interesting that they're adding as well are tank classes. These are weapons that will be specific to the tank class, and this is a class that you spawn in with when you go into the tank. So basically, if you want to hop out of the tank, you'll have this class, rather than in Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, Battlefield Hardline, when you got into a vehicle, you would just have your standard class when you got out. But in this, there's tank-specific weapons, because when you got into the tank, you chose your role as a tank player, and your class should reflect that. Now, the only problem with this is that if you hop into a transport vehicle, such as a transport tank, I'm assuming they won't have this, because then a lot of people wouldn't want to hop into a transport tank if they'd be at a disadvantage because of their tanks. Now, that's about it for this video, guys. I do hope you guys did enjoy all the information we have about tanks in Battlefield 1. If you guys know anything else, don't forget to drop it down below in the comments. Subscribe if you are new here, and also I'm probably going to be doing 2 loadout videos a week from now on. One Hardline on Friday and one Battlefield 4 on Tuesday. I have a baseball tournament this weekend, so maybe a bit delayed on that, but that is really the plan for this channel, because a lot of you have been requesting the loadout series. Some of you are like, oh, do Battlefield 4, Battlefield Hardline. And since we don't have too much else other than Battlefield 1, I thought I'd just do both each week. So drop a like down below for that, subscribe if you are new here. But that's what it is for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.